Hello, listeners. It's Mallory Wilsey, Chief Producer of the Enrollify Network, and I want to take just a moment to tell you about another show on Enrollify that I know you'll love. Breaking Silos aims to showcase the remarkable work of marketing professionals and their non-marketing colleagues from different departments across campus who come together to achieve common goals, implement new initiatives, enhance the student experience, and foster better collaboration among teams. Hosted by Shane Biglini, who leads marketing at Muhlenberg College, each episode of Breaking Silos will feature a marketer and their non-marketing colleague to talk about that partnership. This unique format will inspire marketers to try new things and connect with colleagues in new ways, while also allowing non-marketing professionals an inside look at some of the most collaborative projects in higher ed marketing. New episodes drop every other Wednesday, and you can subscribe to the show by visiting podcast.enrollify.org or just search Breaking Silos wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome to The Application, a podcast focused on actionable takeaways to help you level up your marketing and enrollment management game. I'm your host, Dr. Allison Tercio, Assistant Vice President of Enrollment and Marketing at Siena College. Join me every Tuesday for discussions with some of the best minds in higher ed marketing and enrollment management. The Application is part of the Enrollify Network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher ed professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org or check out some of my personal faves linked in the show notes below. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered all-in-one student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com. We have a fantastic episode lined up for you. We're diving deep into the request for information experience for prospective students, an area that's absolutely critical for converting interest into applications and ultimately enrollments. Joining me today is Lance Hydrick, an entrepreneur with over 15 years of experience building and positioning software to help schools engage with students. Lance has a knack for finding innovative ways to make the student journey more personalized and efficient, helping schools and students find the right educational fit fast. As a first-gen student from a single-parent household, Lance brings a unique and passionate perspective to higher education. Lance, welcome to The Application.
Hey, thank you. Good to be here.
Let's start with a bit about your background. Can you share your journey into the world of higher ed tech and what inspired you to focus on enhancing the student experience?
My co-founder and I, Dallin Palmer, started a higher ed marketing agency back in 2017, doing all the things that you would typically do with a boutique higher ed agency. We were running ads on Google, Facebook, those sorts of platforms. We were developing content, doing geofencing. So anything that a boutique marketing agency would typically do, we were doing those things. The difficulty with that is that we started to realize it was very difficult to gain attribution. So we'd go to a university and start talking about some of the results. And the only things we were able to report were things like impressions, clicks, but then it got lost. It got a little fuzzy. So we were hoping that their applications went up or that enrollments went up and we had something to do with that, right? And that's largely because what we realize is students are going to go to the university website no matter what. Whether a student is finding you through Google or some other search platform, or you're connecting with them through paid media, almost every student will go to the website to find more information at some point. And so we started realizing that at the marketing agency, saying, man, it's very difficult to prove attribution. And we need to do that as a business to be able to stay viable and let institutions know that we actually provide value in what we're doing. And so as we started taking a look at the actual website of universities, we started to realize not much attention is being paid. We throw up a standard RFI form and expect and hope that students find it and provide their information. That was the only hope for us to be able to try to tie through that thread of attribution. And when we started looking at the institutions we were working with and doing other kind of research on university websites, it was clear that universities weren't spending a ton of time leveraging their website in that way, and therefore we lost attribution. And so that's how we started down the path of saying there's got to be a better way on a university website to engage students, give them the information they want so that they will volunteer their information. So that's how we started down the road. And then my experience, I've worked in higher ed most of my professional life, whether it's companies like Zinch or Chegg or otherwise. So anyway, a little bit of background from where I've come from.
So what you're saying is an RFI form on a higher ed website is sort of like the prayer hands emoji.
Yes, it totally is. It's like, in fact, my dream is to eradicate RFI forms. And the reason I say that is because from a student perspective, like I was a first gen student, as you mentioned when you introduced me. It was so difficult as a first gen student. I raised from a single parent household, very poor, didn't have a lot of resources. At my high school, I don't even remember the guidance counselor, who that was. That's how ineffective that piece of the puzzle was for me. So I had to do a ton of research on my own on university websites, and it's very, very difficult to find information. So if a student, if you're with the prayer hands emoji, praying that students will request information, I think you've already lost at that point. It means you haven't provided the information they needed. And so my goal and mission at Halda is to eradicate RFI forms because I think there's a better way to go about the student experience.
So let's talk about this process from the student perspective. They come to the website and they're looking for information. Maybe they're finding it, maybe they're not. We're hoping they're going to fill out an RFI, but that might not even be what they're wanting to do. So tell me about some of like their pain points that they face when they're coming to a college's website.
Yeah, I think the first one is just finding information. It's super difficult for whatever reason. The information isn't there for them in generality sometimes, but even more importantly, there isn't specific information. So they're not able to assess, okay, you have the program, but is the program right for me? Can I afford it from my specific situation? Is your campus going to be a good fit for me? They're looking for specific information, which generally isn't there on the website. And so that's the difficulty. That's the disconnect. It's not, we don't have an experience that's curated specifically to students. There's a lot of general information, which makes sense. A website has to cater to current students, faculty, staff, athletics. I mean, it's just a information dump, which is actually a great knowledge base for technology that's coming out now with AI. So yeah, it's difficult from a student perspective. And because of that, students get really frustrated, right? They're used to having experiences. Like I just left the house this morning and my kids, summertime, my kids are watching YouTube shorts and it drives me nuts. It's like dopamine, dopamine, dopamine. Like every 10 seconds, a new short's coming on and it's driving me nuts. But that's the way that prospective students go about their day. All the content that they consume, whether it's TikTok, social media, Netflix, whatever, is curated specifically to their liking. And it shouldn't be any different from a university perspective. And so that's really what we're trying to solve at Halda. But those are the pain points from my perspective that students face, is just finding information in general and then finding information that's specific to them without having to talk to someone. What's crazy is as we survey students, they're saying, I don't want to talk to someone until I do. And then I want to talk to them immediately. And so how do you understand and know a student well enough to be able to say, now's the time you want to talk to someone, let's connect you, and then continue that face-to-face communication, because that's also important, the human connection from a university perspective.
Yeah, it's so interesting to me because we're really relying on them to be searching and looking for information, but actually in their day-to-day life, they're not used to having to fish for information or go out looking. It comes to them.
Correct.
So that's really interesting. How can we think about that for higher ed? That's a really different concept, I feel like, for colleges and universities. How can we make the experience on our websites, make it feel like it's coming to them rather than them having to work to get for what they're looking for? How is that possible? What can we do?
Yeah, I think what's beautiful is the time we're in. There's like this moment in time for higher ed to catch up to some of these other consumer-based platforms like Netflix and Prime Video and some of these other platforms that are curating results specifically for their users. And that's through AI. The beautiful thing about a university website is it's full of information. Now it's hard to find sometimes. It's hard to get relevant information, but it's all there. And so with AI now, with this technology that's coming about, we now have the ability to take all this information, this disparate information on the website, and what we know about the student. Where have they gone on your website? What are they looking for? What are they interested in? And how do we curate an experience specifically for them based on that information? And so with AI now, we're able to do that. We can take all the information from your website, scrape your website live essentially, and place the information directly for them, and then personalize that to students. So now we've built a Netflix-like experience for higher ed for the first time ever, where when I get on Netflix, they are the shows that I want to watch are in my feed. In fact, my wife just had ACL surgery a couple of weeks ago, and she was in bed for a while, and she was using my Netflix account, and I went to watch a show, and I'm like, Katie, what are you doing? Like, it's all messed up. I got some rom-coms now intermixed with my shows, which is great. Rom-coms every now and again are great.
Man. I gave my dad mine. I love and so now I'm getting a lot of World War II and history stuff. But yeah, we're used to our experience on these apps being customized to us. It knows us.
Mm-hmm.
But when a student comes to our website, we don't have necessarily all of that data about, right? Netflix has, over my years of watching Netflix, they've gotten to know me, right? Like they know something about me. So they know what to put in front of me, and they know which picture for that movie to show versus other people. So how does that work in this instance? Like, people are coming, but maybe it's the first time that they've ever come to our website. So how can we know something about them to make them feel like they're having a really curated, personalized experience?
Yeah, it's a great question. The first thing to do is ask, right? We meet the student in the moment. If they're on a financial aid page, it makes no sense to have an RFI form. It's super general. What are they looking for? They're looking to see if they could pay for school in their specific situation. So if we engage them in the moment to say, hey, it looks like you're wondering if possibly you could get a scholarship where there's financial aid. Do you want to take an assessment in 20 seconds and find out if you're eligible for a scholarship? And what we're finding is that a large number of students want to do that. So we start asking questions. Okay, what's your GPA? Whatever information a university needs to do a quick assessment for a student to give them a range of potential scholarship opportunity. Now you have additional information from a student that's volunteered, and you're able to make an assessment there on, maybe you ask GPA, what program they're interested in, what current state they're living in. And there's lots of information you can gather from a quick assessment. And so we ask them questions. We intake that information. We are integrated with the CRM, so we know what stage they're in. Are they an inquiry? Have they applied? All those things should be taken into account to dynamically change the way that we're interacting with students and curating their content. And so now, if we know their GPA, we know what program they're interested in, we know when they want to start school. Well, those are some of the things you can use to assess where the student is and start pulling in content, program-specific content, scholarship information, have a secondary call to action, say, do you want to talk to a financial aid counselor? There's lots of things, but the first thing I would suggest doing is just ask them, be in the moment with them. If they're on a program page, let's talk about programs. What program are you interested in? Do you know? If you don't know, let us help you make a quick assessment. Then you can start curating the content that would be relevant for them.
So ask them, then give them content in response to their answer, and then offer up, do you want to connect with someone on this? That's the moment that becomes the RFI moment? I mean, it's not really an RFI anymore. It's more like a request for engagement then.
Yeah, like, have we given you enough information you want to take the next step? And this is the next step. Have we done enough? No? Let's continue asking questions. Let's continue asking different things that are going to get you interested. Like, what are you interested in next? Housing? Okay, great. We have a bunch of content on the website about housing. Let me pull it in specifically for you. And so we're able to then go in and essentially give a Netflix-like experience the likes of which have never been done before, because we haven't had AI to be able to grab and parse out information, whether it's on the website or YouTube videos that you're talking about specific information. And then the key, I think, is to give them the information immediately, immediate responses. We shouldn't, the reason why I dislike standard RFIs is the experience is a student goes to the website, they're trying to find information, they can't find it, so they request it, and the response is, thanks, we'll be in touch. There's a really aggravating experience. When I was a first gen, that aggravated me. I'm like, I just want to know if I can pay for this. And I don't know. I need someone to help me out and give me some information that makes me want to stay here and engage with you. And then what happens is that goes into the CRM and it goes into a standard generalized drip campaign. And maybe 7 days later, they get a response. It's just not good enough.
Yeah.
And so there's with AI, we have the ability to change all of this, to completely change the status quo of how students interact with websites and how universities interact with prospective students. There's a much better way to do it.
How is this approach different than, say, adding an AI chatbot onto a website? How does this feel different?
Yeah, it's different in a sense that AI chatbots are typically for support, right? They're support oriented, and they typically are configured. And with new AI chatbots are coming out are great. So I'd have to do a lot of research on specific capabilities. But the way that this is different is I call it a content carousel, where we're able to take content from anywhere that you have and be able to place it right in front of a student in a way that is consumable, that they're used to, and then we'll remember them every time they come back and figure out where they left off. So AI chatbots are great for support use cases. Haven't delved enough into some of them to give you a really good synopsis. My guess is that they'd be able to return some good generalized information, but unless you're asking them questions and understanding all the things that they're interested in, you don't have an ability to curate the content.
Yeah, I can see that. I think with a chatbot, more there's not prompting as much, and the prompting that you're describing for the student to answer is really strategic, so that you can feed that content carousel back. So also the content format, the format that someone is then presented with would be different than what I imagine a chatbot would be, which is more of like a text message inbox kind of situation happening.
Yeah, I think you'll see some really good AI chatbots coming out. And I think they'll be,
they'll have their place.
They'll have their place. And I think students will use them for what they're good at. I think this is just a next level experience for students.
So can you share any success stories or examples of institutions that have been able to leverage this approach and had some really tangible results? You mentioned the financial aid website example. I'm really curious about other parts of the website where this works really well on it. I can totally see why financial aid would be a prime example.
Yeah, transfer students is a big one. So transfer students looking to see if their credits will transfer. We build personalized plans. So help us develop a personalized plan, which for me as a first gen student would have been amazing. Like, I don't know where to start. Help me start building a plan for me specifically.
Yeah.
ROI calculators are big, right? Student wants to know outcomes. If I go into this program, what are my likely outcomes going to be? Can I get a job? Like some of these assessments and quizzes, there's so many. There's an infinite number that you can create to be able to engage with students. And we're able to now do those out of the box real time with near zero configuration. So success stories, we just posted one on our blog recently. The University of West Florida, on their graduate programs, we did a side-by-side test on incremental engagement from students with standard RFIs and Halda's forms or assessments. And they're like 500% increase in down funnel enrollments, like a crazy number. And so that's how many students are engaging with your RFI form over the same time that we implemented Halda on their website. And so if you go to Halda.AI, look at our blogs, you can see the case study. It's just enormous gains. And it stands to reason, right? If you're engaging with a student and you're in the moment with them and you're giving them valuable information, they want to share with you their information, because now you're saying, yes, I'm getting what I'm asking for, and now I want to connect more deeply. And so that's what we're trying to do, is create an experience that allows a student to gain all the information that they need to be able to take the next best step. And using the CRM to know what stage they're in to say the next best step for you is to apply. So here's the application. We'll drive you right there. And we have a bunch of information already about you that we can pre-populate. And now we're off to the races.
Well, it really is about, they don't realize it, but you're making them feel something about your organization when you're doing this, right? Because you're making them feel heard, even though they have no idea that that's happening, right? They're feeling served. They're feeling well served. They're feeling supported.
Yeah.
Those are all really, so there's emotion that's underpinning the fact that they're willing to go to a next step with you, which a normal website that you wouldn't have that shot. You wouldn't.
Yeah, exactly. It's turning a website into an informational destination to an experiential destination.
Yeah.
Like there's an actual experience the students having with the university. The university knows from your perspective some of the specifics. So it is a good question for you, Allison. This sort of drives me nuts sometimes is universities obfuscate cost sometimes. So it's difficult for a student, especially for me as a first-gen student, to say, how much is this actually? I have no idea. And it's generalized and it's not very specific to me. Though when I talk to a counselor and they ask me a few questions, then they can get specific.
Yes.
So why don't we do that initially? So that's what we're trying to do is bridge that gap, take it from informational to experiential and allow those two sides to connect. So a student feels like, wow, they're really listening to me. They want me to come to school there. And the university likewise is saying, yeah, of course we want you to come to school here. You're on our website. You're interested. Let's engage.
And then what happens after that engagement? How are colleges and universities, the admissions team, the financial aid team, the marketing team, how are they then leveraging that moment of the student takes a next step? They have had this experience and they've been served really well. They've gotten the information that they're looking for. It's been tailored to them. And then they apply or they say they want to talk to somebody. What's that handoff like and how does it get leveraged to be really effective?
Yeah, there are a couple things. So we're integrated with the CRM. So all that information populates into their CRM. And so communications downstream will start to happen. But we also give the student an immediate response. It's not a thanks, we'll be in touch. It's, hey, you gave us this information. Based on what you gave us, here's specific information about the program you're interested in, housing, financial aid, scholarships, whatever the student has indicated interest, we give them an immediate response. So that communication has already started and they're already anxious to get more information from the university.
So they're more open. They're more open to getting that phone call, that email, or whatever might come from a member of the community at that college. They're just open
100%.
for it. Yeah, okay. Which is like one of the hardest things.
Yeah, they've already gone down the path. They're like halfway down and now they're waiting for the next communication.
So is this the next thing? Is this the wave of the future of how?
Yeah, I think this is the new status quo for real. There's no reason to have a standard RFI form if there's a way to give the student a much better experience and do so out of the box, right? You already have all the information on your website. Let's now leverage AI to be able to tailor all the information from the website, from other channels you have, whether it's YouTube or other social media platforms, and curate it specifically to that student. So gone should be the days of, from an enrollment marketer perspective, of segmenting to cohorts and sort of guessing what information, because now you can segment down to the individual and get really specific into the content you're placing right in front of them because they have, through their activity and through the responses they've given you, they've told you what they want. And now we can curate that specifically for them and know what stage they're in to continue dynamically changing that stage, whether it's apply or deposit or wherever you're at in the funnel, to be able to move that student continually down through the funnel, answering the questions that they want to have answered.
Well, I can see this even affecting other forms of marketing, because in the example you're sharing about a student who's really concerned about cost, if I take that into account in my planning, then when I send a print piece out, for instance, there's a version where that's what's front and center. I know that this is what's important to that student. So I'm going to really talk about price and I'm going to talk about return on investment. I'm going to talk about what their options are for financing college and all of that. But that might not be the same for student B who came on the website and what was important to them, right? It allows us to then customize the other forms of marketing we're doing, maybe even the ads we're running.
100%.
Maybe I'm
Yeah.
running ads for an accepted student's day or some kind of event, and I am emphasizing what matters to a certain group of students in that ad. Come learn more about this or see
Yes.
this in action, depending on what matters to them. So you really can see how this
100%.
it starts to make my brain hurt when I really start thinking about all the implications of what you could do with this kind of information, right? Whew.
Yeah. And do so out of the box. Like it shouldn't take a ton of configuration, because what we're doing is we're just gathering data from student activity, from what they're telling us, from the CRM, and we're curating that experience for them. It's already on your website. Through AI, we can dynamically pull it, place it, and now think about instantaneous, hyper-personalized landing pages out of the box. You don't have to build those. Think about down the road, offsite, email communications that are now hyper-personalized SMS messages.
Yeah.
So you don't have to guess anymore. We know exactly what this student wants and needs. And if we don't know, we can ask them. And as they give us more information, as the data keeps coming in, we keep updating and appending the curation of that experience, just like Netflix does when my wife hijacks it and watches rom-coms. Right. So it's the exact same, should work the same. And now with AI, we have this once in a lifetime opportunity from a higher ed perspective to finally up level the game where it should be and what students expect. And we can now do that.
I love that you took my example all the way through to the landing page after they clicked on the ad that was customized to them based on what they did or said they were interested on the website. And then that is also customized to them. So yeah, it's really mind-blowing if you think about it. So are there any data and privacy implications here? I mean, if people might be thinking about that right now, worrying about that, it feels like a hot topic, and the regulations around data privacy feel like they're getting more difficult for marketers. So how does that play into this?
Yeah, it's a good question. And because we're on the website, it's first-party data. So what you're finding that's being impacted right now is third-party data. So data offsite. So first-party data, there are no privacy. I mean, obviously there's PII and things we need to be careful about around student data itself.
Security of that.
Yes, security. Yeah. Exactly, yeah. But on the website, we just collect first-party data information. And I would encourage every university to start thinking very carefully about, because it is more difficult now on the third-party side, so offsite, running ads and things like that. So retargeting becomes a lot more tricky and almost impossible nowadays. But on your website, you should have a very robust first-party data platform that you're building to be able to assess all the information that's coming to you through your website. Because if we agree that most students, whether they find you through Google or through paid ads, they will hit your website at some point, well, then it makes sense to have a really robust first-party data set that you're capturing.
Yeah, this is one of my bugaboos, and overall, because we are over-reliant on third-party data in general in higher ed, whether it's purchasing names from organizations like College Board, College Express, whatever it might be. We're over-reliant on that, right? And so one of my things is, how can we create our own audiences and own our own audiences? So what you're talking about feels to be more in that lane, like just leveraging our own media that we own to be able to understand and to extract our audience from that media that we own.
100%. And I would argue it's the first thing you should do.
Yeah.
Right? If you're spending millions of dollars on paid ads and they're going to be hitting your website and having a horrible experience and dropping out, well, that's a lot of wasted money.
Yeah.
Universities should be thinking right now, how do I shore up my website? How do I make sure that my website is the best possible landing spot for students? And how can I give them the most relevant information immediately, and start building up that first-party data set so that, as you mentioned, you have the data to be able to act upon in the student's best interest, of course. Like, you're trying to help the students get the information they want.
Of course we want enrollments, but everything that we've been talking about and describing here is helping the student, helping make the whole process easier for them, because they do feel overwhelmed and stressed by it.
Totally. Yeah, I think that is what we have found to be the best way to get conversions. I'm talking inquiries, applications, enrollment, is just be helpful. And just be helpful to students. And it's crazy what happens when you're helpful. Instead of a thanks, we'll be in touch, it's like, let me give you some answers, just some of the questions you're here for. And through that, of course, they want more information. They want to go further down funnel. And then you're able to create that connection digitally that can then easily be handed off to a human connection when it's the right time.
It makes me think that if we were running all these big time ad campaigns, you're spending all that money, that even the conversion landing page you're sending people to should have this kind of experience,
100%.
this customizable experience. It's not just the .edu, but it's whatever landing pages that you might be using in your media campaigns.
Yes, we've basically we've built the dream that I wish I had when I owned a digital marketing agency in higher ed, to be more helpful to students. And so, of course, anywhere that there is I would ask universities to do this. Take a look at the RFIs on your website. If the response is, thanks, we'll be in touch, we need to fix that. There's no reason to have that. There's a new way to go about things that with technology can easily be replaced to help give a student more relevant content curated specifically for them, instead of give us your information and then a week from now we'll give you information back.
Okay, so that's everyone's next step then. If they're listening to this and they're wondering what to do next, well, of course they can go and check out Halda, and the demos that you have on the website are really impressive. So go and check those out. But if at a minimum, what's in your own control, right? If you're a marketer listening to this right now, what's in your control? So at a minimum, you can go and look at the experience of what happens when someone fills out an RFI form on your website. What happens after that? What kind of information gets triggered to them right away? And what do they see on that page after they submit the form? Those are two things that just using your CRM information, you should be able to customize to the student, right?
Yes, totally. So that's a good recommendation. Go look at those things. And from a student perspective, look at what that flow looks like. And if it's not immediate and it doesn't give the information a student wants, we need to change things. As a university marketing office, we have tools that are available to us, which have been available, which are like, I have this form that I embed from my CRM or other methods, and that's what we have. And sort of that's what it is. And then I focus most of my time on content, which is great. Content is super important, but we don't have to do that anymore in terms of just having a one size fits all standard RFI just to capture. It's a very selfish way to go about
it
connecting.
Is. I struggle with
selfish.
It for that reason. Yes. Yeah.
And so, my whole mission and goal is to eradicate RFI forms, because I don't think they're helpful to students.
Sign me up, Lance. You've sold me.
Awesome.
I think you probably sold everyone who's listening too. Thank you so much for such an insightful conversation and sharing your expertise and your passion for helping students and institutions find the perfect match.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been a great conversation.
And where can our listeners connect with you and learn more?
You can go to our website, Halda.AI. It has some information there, or just shoot me an email, Lance@Halda.AI. Always happy to chat and connect with folks anytime.
And to our listeners, thanks for tuning into this episode of The Application. If you enjoyed it, please leave us a review, share it with your colleagues, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. The Application is part of the Enrollify Podcast Network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed tech shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our shows help higher ed marketers and admissions professionals find their next big idea, and they feature a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Jamie Hunt, Seth Odell, Day Kibbolds, Jeremy Tiers, and so many other of your favorite higher ed leaders. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered, all-in-one student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.